So, I work very closely with Dr. Einat Wilf, who's a former member of Knesset, and something that she brings up constantly in her writing and in her work is that anti-Zionism, when it becomes popular in a given space, is evidence in and of itself of institutional rot and foundational crises. It's evidence that the society is no longer organizing themselves around any unifying ethos, that they have lost their way and they have turned to paranoia and scapegoating in the same way that anti-Semitism did this in a given society before the year 1948. I mean, you look at the Arab world, you look at the Soviet Union, you look at Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party, and now you look at Western universities and academia, and these, the first three are totally failed projects. The Arab Islamic world has totally failed in providing stability and resources for their citizens. The Soviet Union is obviously no longer here, and Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party, thank God, was swept, up into the dustbin of history pretty quickly because of Jewish solidarity. And so it is evidence that this is a failing movement, that this is a failing project. I attended a quote unquote good American university, and apart from my history of theater class, the only thing I really learned, or the predominant thing I learned at school, was about different groups and their relationship to each other in America, oppressed versus oppressor, white versus non-white. They've lost their way as academic institutions. There's not a lot of learning going on. There's not a lot of standards. There's not a lot of rigor in the actual course material. Instead, there is a massive replacement of academic theory with politics. And listen, I'm a political person. Politics are okay. But I think that is the first step in realizing how these institutions have failed, and then why they are so quick to adopt such a dangerous ideology like anti-Zionism. I've said it quite often that students who are marinating in these ideologies that are being taught by not only professors, but by other faculty members, by student organizations, by diversity, equity, and inclusion officers, they're not jettisoning these ideas once they graduate. Andrew Sullivan, a famous blogger, wrote a couple years ago an article called "We All Live on Campus Now." And basically the thesis was, if you don't think that our politics, our culture, our entertainment, our media, our journalism, our law is going to reflect these newly popular ideologies that are festering on American campuses, then you've got another thing coming. And in fact, we've already seen it happen. And this idea that academia is somehow equal to morality because it's made up of a bunch of smart people who, apart from Claudine Gay, the vast majority of them have earned their place. It's just not true. Niall Ferguson, a Scottish historian, wrote a great piece a couple weeks ago in the Free Press called "The Treason of the Intellectuals," about how during Nazi Germany, it was actually the role of academics and intellectuals to sanitize and to justify Hitler's regime and to pave the way intellectually for justification of Nazism. And so academia is not only not able to accept evil ideology and propagate it, but it's actually even more vulnerable to accepting those types of narratives and those demonizations of particular people because of the intellectual exercises that they themselves go through that are in themselves harmful.